Welcome to episode 419, where I'm speaking with my sister Niamh about her perimenopausal journey, and particularly from her perspective as an occupational therapist working in the mental health field and understanding Ayurveda. And even with all those tools in her toolkit, she still was overwhelmed with this perimenopausal journey. And we talk about her experience and how she used the tools from Ayurveda and Western medicine. So please stay tuned. Hi there, I'm your host Colette, and on this podcast I will be sharing the teachings of Ayurveda, yoga, and holistic health practices. Now, if you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend checking out the first couple of episodes where I do an introduction to Ayurveda and the mind-body types. Thanks for listening, and now here's a new episode. Hello and welcome back to the Elements of Ayurveda Podcast. Today I have a special guest, my sister Niamh, and she's going to join us today because she's been on this journey of Ayurveda, listening to me talking about it forever in her ear, but also she's had some really big experiences in the past few months that we just want to talk about and we thought would be really helpful to share with you. And one thing I have to be careful of is that we don't start speaking really fast and I don't become Irish squared and start using all these words.
I was thinking that you're going to hear your Irish accent now coming out.
Exactly. So Niamh, hello, my favorite person. Hello. Niamh, let's start telling people a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so my name's Niamh. I'm Colette's younger and more good-looking sister, as you can see.
They can't see, actually.
Oh, no. So I live where both of us grew up in the southeast of Ireland in Tramore. My work is that I'm an occupational therapist and I specialise in mental health and trauma. And I first was introduced to Ayurveda because always throughout my life I would have dips in low mood. And because I was a mental health worker, I was always trying to figure it out. But there was nothing majorly wrong in my life emotionally that I had to change, or I was always trying to figure out what it was. And then when Colette introduced me to Ayurveda and I realised that I was Kapha constitute, is that what you say?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It all made sense. So the first time that Colette did the questionnaire with me, I was like, oh, I kind of know this stuff. And I think it was ringing true to me because it was explaining my nature. So since then, I've always used Ayurvedic, what's the word, Colette, kind of techniques or
principles, right? Yeah.
If I was going into a state where what I would kind of call low mood, but now looking at it through Ayurveda, it was like out of balance Kapha. Is that right, Colette?
Out of balance Kapha, yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to get 10 out of 10. So now I'm just able to look at it, at that experience that I would have had possibly twice a year, that would have really caused me to impacted my work, my social life. I would have felt very disconnected from people, withdraw from people, just want to sit and might look at the washing up and think, oh my God, that's like a mountain to climb. And again, I had lots of tools because I work in mental health, but still I struggled with thinking that I couldn't shift this much.
Yeah.
So I couldn't think myself out of not being Kapha. I suppose I had to change things. And once I followed the principles, it was life changing really, because the minute I'd feel myself going into that, what I know now is a Kapha imbalance, I was able to put the things in place for me.
Right.
That I would come out of that quicker, instead of going into a panic and thinking, oh my God, here we go now for
exactly
months.
Yeah. And just to give people even more context, I mean, you're very busy, right? You have 3 children from the ages of
that's a difficult question. 10.
Yeah, well 13. Done. Well done.
and 14.
Exactly. I was like, put myself on the spot there when I couldn't get their ages out straight away.
It always changes age. It's terrible.
It does. And they're getting taller than me too. But so Niamh has 3 kids, married, busy life and full-time job. And, you didn't mention that in your occupational therapy services, you're working with children who have, mental health challenges. So that in itself is very demanding, beautiful work that you're doing, but very draining, right?
Yeah. You need to be well, and keep yourself well.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I love it. Part of it, I love the work. And this part for me is the connection with people. And when I am out of balance, that goes, and that's the most frustrating thing for me. So being able to connect.
Right, exactly. And like you said, you could see this happening in yourself. And when we look back over your life now, in retrospect, now that you're understanding Ayurveda, you could see, I can see my kapha was really imbalanced then. And even with all your education and in your work, the signs to look for. But the problem when kapha is aggravated is it's like you're in quicksand. It comes that inertia. So physically and mentally, you're in the mud, and it's so hard to pull yourself out of it. Even though you can recognize it, you can okay, there's something serious going on here. I'm going back into that low mood, that lethargy, that heavy energy, physically, mentally, emotionally, feeling very withdrawn. But as you said, you knew it was there, but it's so hard to pull yourself up and out of it, right? When you're in the thick of it, when it's manifested into that really heavy kapha imbalance.
Yeah. And I think that, feeling like you're walking through mud and feeling disconnected, because, now I know you have to do the opposite to what you feel.
Exactly.
So that you have to get up, you have to move. But that's a lot easier when you're not thinking, what's wrong with me? Is this something in my relationship? Is this something with work? It's, there might be stuff like that going on, but once you get yourself in balance, then you can actually look at that stuff again. So it's real foundational stuff for me.
Voila, exactly.
To just kind of see the wood from the trees. And for me as well, it was with Ayurveda, it's the holistic way it was, because my work as an occupational therapist, our models are very much holistic. So we look at the person, the environment, we look at spirituality, and it's that bit of kind of looking at something so holistically, and again with comparing it with the mental health work, is like my job is to help people see what's going well in their life, what they enjoy doing, what lights them up, and then look at the things that are tricky. And similar to your work, Colette, I might be working with a teenager who's really struggling, and, outwardly they might look cross and aggressive, and their parents are really struggling. But my job is to look what's going on behind that behavior. And now often I do think, I look at parents and think they're probably out of balance as some parents, which is which is really aggravating the situation, because they can't co-regulate their children. So yes, Ayurveda has really had an impact on my life, and I like looking at it through that lens.
Yeah, exactly, because you're seeing their behaviors, whether in yourself, right, of low mood, withdrawal, disconnection, or a teenager that's really having a troubling time at home and school and is not really launching for whatever reason into life. Those behaviors are a result of a root issue. And so it's about getting to the root issue. And the beautiful thing about Niamh's work as well is Niamh is very much working with nature. So normally occupational therapy is done in a clinical setting, and you bring the child, in Niamh's case, into, a box room, 4 white walls, where they're kind of scared and feel out of place. But in Niamh's work, and I think it'd be nice, Niamh, to explain a little bit about this, because you talk about how holistic it is, but Niamh brings the children out into nature, and talk about that way of working with OT in nature?
Yeah, so I work in a gorgeous forest, old forest. So it's really gorgeous space to work in. So we have an outdoor shelter, and there's lots of old trees. We've hammocks, swings, dogs. So I would have worked in a very clinical setting, and for me, for my dosha, that wasn't good for me to work in such a clinical setting. So I made a decision to move out of that and start my own thing. But the kids that I see, I often think for them to be able to regulate or stay calm, they're going to an appointment, they know stuff is going on for them. They're thinking, what's wrong with me? But when they walk into the woods, the regulating nature of being in the woods, having the dog to rub, they get in the hammock, I give them something to eat. That is all massive part of the work. Like, I often feel that I'm a bit down the line. So it's the woods, the dogs, the hammock. And then when I have them in a regulated state, that they're kind of out of that fight space into the front of their brain, then they can start to process information, build up a relationship. It's all about building up a relationship and trust, because I work with lots of kids in the care system who had had trauma in their relationships. So yeah, I don't know how anyone does that work without being outdoors, without a hammock, with a dog.
Yeah, but it's so beautiful. Like you said, because they come in on edge. They know they've been told something's wrong with them. And if they're going into a clinical setting, it's so going to put them into their sympathetic nervous system, right? Their fight or flight. And you're then bringing them into the woods, and there's a dog and a hammock, and we're just going to have a chat, and we're just going to relax. And it's beautiful because it's really regulating them, like you said, bringing them into their parasympathetic nervous system, their rest and digest. And from there, you're gradually building up their trust and knowing that they're a safe space. Really.
Yeah. Foundations are trust and feeling safe.
Yeah.
And then we can go from there. But if you don't do that piece, nothing happens. It's only, like in my experience, if you can't do that, it's a fake interaction. So they're just doing it to pass the time or get through the time, and then they can get back into the car and off they go. But and vice versa, but without, just absolutely works. And lots of the kids that I work with don't want any intervention, don't trust people as really because of their life experience. So they do not want to go to these things and don't want to come back. So most of them come back, and I have very few refusals. So they speak with their feet, and I'm happy about that. And I see how they get out of the car. Like, they get out of the car and they kind of trot down to the outdoor shelter. Now they might want to talk to me. They're like, "Where's the dog?" Get in the hammock.
And
then until I give them something to eat, maybe they might be they might be able to speak then. But that's, they're not in that part of their brain where they're able to interact yet, but then they get there eventually.
I think it's just an amazing service you're providing, and the fact that you're doing it in nature is so alignment as well with Ayurveda, and that it's just beautiful. You're really helping these children. But also, we have talked throughout the years about particularly your own nervous system, because you're hearing these awful traumatic stories. And of course, your Kapha nature, right? Kapha, we know, is just like Mother Earth figure, just wanting everyone to get along, wanting everyone to be happy. And I've talked to you over the years about taking care of yourself after these sessions, because you're hearing horror stories. And of course, all you want to do is take these kids home with you and be like, "I'll mind you, just come home with me." And you can't. Right. But we talked about letting go of that emotion afterwards, because I was concerned over the years that you were holding on to that emotion in your body.
Talk
a little bit about that.
Often people ask me, like, how do you cope with hearing such emotional stories or seeing kids in such distress? And I do, like, in the moment, I do what I can and the best I can in that moment. And that's why I have to be well. If I feel disconnected in that moment, I feel like I'm not doing a good enough job. But I do. I don't feel like I carry it home with me. Sometimes I'd be thinking about kids, but I do feel like I hold it in my body.
Yeah, I think, I get that sense you do as well.
Yeah. So I do go to acupuncture,
Yeah, yeah.
and I just feel like that releases those emotions that are held in my muscles. Or
Yeah. Yeah, because it's interesting when you think of kapha has a tendency to hold, tendency to suppress emotions, tendency to retain water. There's lots of holding in kapha. They hold space for everyone. They're great listeners.
Mhm.
And that's why, I've talked to you over the years about, I think, that energy, and you felt it as well. You're holding onto it in your body, and it's about releasing that. So there is that tendency of your constitution to hold on to things. And in Ayurveda, we'd say it's in the connective tissue. And, along with doing some Ayurvedic cleansing, which we're going to talk about now, the acupuncture is fantastic for shifting that energy as well. And it's interesting because you said you would get disconnected, and you could see your patterns over the years. It was definitely around March, April time, really thick into kapha season, where you would normally get that heaviness, that lethargy, and that would be a lot of congestion for you, or chest infections, right, around that time of year.
Yeah.
And then it was interesting in autumn time, as the kids are going back to school. So you've come back from holidays, things are a bit hectic because the kids are going back to school. And then around that time, you'd see more of the vata as you're going into vata season. And you'd see more of that disconnection is a tendency of vata, that feelingness of spaciousness around and feeling disconnected from others. And then you might get a little anxiety. But what we saw this year was unusual. And of course, it's because of where you are in your stage of life. In the past, we've done cleanses for kapha, right?
Yeah.
And you immediately feel the lift post cleanse, and you're back on track. And you've learned over the years to catch those signs of imbalance early before they manifest into the chest infection, into the inertia, and so on. So you're really getting good at that.
Yeah.
But this year, we noticed something very different not only in the last month or so, right? So talk to us about that.
Yeah. So, as Colette said, I would always try balance my kapha by moving early in the morning. So that's a non-negotiable for me. I have to get up and move. And I will be conscious of what I eat. But sometimes I can slip back into the kind of foods that kapha people like creamy and heavy foods. But I would be conscious of trying to eat lighter and more digestible food. But what changed a few months ago, I started perimenopausal symptoms, I suppose. So about 6 months ago, I started experiencing hot flushes or flashes. I don't know what.
I think interchangeably, yeah. In Ireland, they say flushes, right?
Yeah, we say flushes.
Yeah, I think.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to stick with that.
stick with what you know.
And night sweats. So I was saying it to Colette, and I was, we spoke about it, and I said I'd keep an eye on, because I really wanted to kind of experience what these symptoms were like, because it's a natural stage of life. And that was okay. I was kind of coping with that. But then, I don't know, was it about a month ago? I started experiencing something that's not common for me to experience. So I started experiencing what people talk about, overwhelm, I suppose. That I was finding it hard to cope with everyday things, and challenging, like hard to cope with multitasking, prioritizing tasks. So in my work, I would call this executive functioning. And because I am dyslexic, so I'm non-neurotypical, I would always struggled with executive functioning, which is it's a cognitive function that helps us start a task, stay on task, time management. Did I say prioritizing? So all those things would be hard for me anyway, in general. But when the perimenopausal and hormone imbalance started, these things got much worse. And it isn't my norm to experience that. So I was like, what the hell is this? I couldn't figure out what task to do first, and was getting very like upset about it. And usually if I was in my camphor mode, I'd be like, it doesn't matter, I'll do it whenever.
Yeah.
I would choose to go for a walk, rather than folding the clothes, and that wouldn't bother me. But I was experiencing this, what, Colette was saying is Vata. And it was very, not usual for me. It wasn't my usual way. So I was just kind of a bit taken back by how much it impacted on me. So I'm lucky that I know about Ayurveda, I know about mental health, so I'm well equipped with this stuff. I could talk, tell everyone what's going on for me. And still I felt like, oh my God, what is this? In my work, I felt like I wasn't grounded, and I would be in, say, sessions with parents that might be stressful. One I remember where, like, it's my work, I'm well used to it, but it does take a lot out of you. But I was trying to manage emotions and minding people in the sessions, but I wasn't grounded.
Yeah.
And it was much harder for me to do that, and I was second guessing myself. And so you can see when people say, oh, I lost my confidence through perimenopause, I lost my confidence, I didn't feel like I was myself, because you're actually not operating like yourself, So it's great, like when, like that, it's easy for me to look what's the need behind that behavior. So why am I feeling like all the files are open in my head, like, so that overwhelm. Why, one morning my husband said, do you want to go for a walk? And I knew that morning, I was like, if I don't want to go for a walk, but if I don't go for a walk and explain what's going on for me, I'm going to be that crazy lady standing in the kitchen, shouting about the folding of the clothes or the washing up. I just knew that's the way it was going to go. So I went for a walk, and I explained all this to my husband, how I was feeling so overwhelmed. And a big part of this as well is I felt like I was, I don't know, in Ireland we say whinging, I don't know if that's but I felt like I was
moaning,
yeah. About simple things like that you should be able to do, and I wasn't. So at work as well, I was second guessing myself, and I was changing. I couldn't remember what I had planned, and I was changing things. And so I suppose what Colette made me realise that I was in a Vata imbalance.
Yeah.
Which is not nice. Because I've never experienced that before. And at that stage then, when I rang Colette, being like all panicked, saying, oh my God, this is, just not myself. And you hear so many people in perimenopause saying that, like, I wasn't myself. And Colette said, okay, it sounds like you're in Vata, we'll do the cleanse and see what we can balance first. And then we spoke about going to the GP and
general practitioner, doctor.
After that, going to the doctor. So that's what I did, even though at the time, kind of going into a cleanse, I was like, finding it hard to organise myself, finding it hard to prioritise stuff to do, the shopping list. But I had done cleanses before, so I was like, I'm just going to focus on this because this will help.
Right. And we were on the phone a lot, like just organising, okay, write down your list now. Let's write it down together and really go in step by step through it. Yeah. And we chose the cleanse because obviously it was a change of season. We're going into Vata season. So that's why I want to go through the cleanse first, see what we could bring back into balance and then take from there. But yeah, you really needed a lot of, support during that, because you were a bit freaked out by all this Vata that you're not used to.
Yeah. And I can imagine someone who was overwhelmed and then, wants to do a cleanse, needs that support, as you were saying, like, because it just feels too much and you might kind of give up. So that's what it was really good, like all of the support. And even because Colette knows obviously where I live, so she was even telling me the shops to go to.
Yeah.
And what to get. So, so I did that, and that week I hurt my back. My back went into spasm, which
right, Vata imbalance again, spasms in the body. Yeah.
Yeah, so my back went into spasm. So while I was doing the cleanse, I wasn't able to do my morning routine of getting up early, which is what suits me anyway, getting up early and doing exercise. Um, and while the cleanse was going good, and I felt clearer and lighter by say day 5, I I was starting to feel a bit, heavy and that kapha imbalanced way. And then I spoke to Colette again, and then we realized that it was because my morning routine was out.
Yeah, that you will go for a walk every morning, and you're up at 5 a.m. and walking, which is really important for kapha to be stimulated in the morning. But because of your back spasm, you were not able to do that. But we were amazed as well, by just that simple shift in your routine had such a massive impact on your kapha.
Yeah, so I would get up, but it's 5:30, Colette, 5 stands.
Oh, sorry.
I walk or run in the morning, but I like, it's, as I said, non-negotiable. I have to do that because, and more for my mental health and my focus and concentration throughout the day. That's how it helps. Because I didn't have that, because I hurt my back, it had such an impact on me at the end of that cleanse. So when I rang Colette, because I was a bit, disappointed, saying, "Oh my God, I'm like 6 days into this cleanse now, and I feel heavy." And so Colette said, "Right, then tomorrow morning, get up and do your kind of cooking early in the morning. So get up early, get up at your time, and you can't do your walk, but do your cooking and do your organizing for the week." And I did that, and straight away, my energy shifted.
Yeah.
So for me, that is, it just shows me, because some mornings I'd be like, "Oh my God, why am I doing this every morning?" But it just shows me how just essential it is for my dosha to move early in the morning. After the cleanse, my hot flushes were gone, which I was having probably 4 to 5 a day. And actually, talking about that, I would notice with the hot flushes, so I would start to nearly glitch in my brain as I could feel myself, trying to remember things, or I was trying to start a task, say, and I couldn't start it. And then all of a sudden I'd get a hot flush. So it was really, people say, "Oh, it's a hot flush or overwhelmed," but actually really debilitating during your day, where you're sitting there at the computer thinking, what was that person's name? And, I've got it again. What was I doing? And so again, outwardly, you can imagine people are thinking, why am I not able to do this? Losing confidence, just kind of thinking about the outward behaviors. But for me, I knew that I could see the kind of wave of how this hormone surge was affecting my cognitive function. And then you can be kinder to yourself,
exactly,
or laugh at yourself, which I did a lot of. But by the end of the cleanse, the hot flushes were gone, the night sweats were gone, and I felt back in balance and my energy back.
And your mind and your executive function was back. Like, you were very clear. I could hear it in talking to you on the phone. Yeah.
So, it was energy back and everything. So I was absolutely delighted. And while before, I've always done cleanses before, I would kind of slip back into having the family dinners here, which didn't massively suit my dosha. So here we might have tomato-based pastas, rice, curries, things like that.
Potatoes.
Buds, yes, potatoes. And this time I didn't do that. I just changed things up. So I would have maybe whatever dinner they're having, say it's a curry, but have couscous. So I changed it up, and that made a massive difference. Compared to other cleanses, I think I would have kind of gone back.
Yeah, there is a tendency.
The food bit.
Yeah.
Is important.
Yeah, I think the tendency is to kind of go back to the comfort foods after being in the cleanse. But then as you go forward and doing more and more and seeing the impact, particularly the awareness around the impact on your body and mind, it's really important. And, once you feel that impact on your body and mind, that is really the catalyst to the changing how you're eating and so on. So we talked a lot after the cleanse about, okay, I totally get it. You come home from a long day of work. It's been emotionally draining. And now you have to get with your husband, get the kids dinner. And then like the thought of cooking another dinner just for yourself is just ridiculous, and this is how I talk to parents, even in my consultations. It's like, okay, let's make this realistic. So myself and Niamh talked and we're like, okay, so if you're having, if the kids are having the pasta or the potatoes or the rice, which is not great for your kapha constitution, particularly later in the evening, then you choose the lighter, drier grains like couscous, like quinoa, millet, which cook up thankfully nice and fast. And then I talked to Niamh about, a couple of dishes like batch cooking, where you want to cook your grains fresh daily, but you can batch cook like a stew or a soup and have that for a couple of days. And, we organize, okay, you're going to go to the farmer's market on a Saturday. And whatever veggies he has there, you're going to get. They're seasonal, they're local, they're organic. And then you're going to make a soup and then you're going to make a stew on that Sunday and have it for a couple of days. And then you have another batch cooking session on a Wednesday, right?
Yeah. And I think that's the thing that I didn't adopt after other cleanses. But now, like, I've always done the morning routine of the exercise, but that batch cooking, going to the farmer's market, when I've done it this time, it is actually much, much easier to have the kind of soup or the foods there. And then I realized actually these are the foods I like. Yeah, I think the difference in my energy, in my clarity was massive. And this week, so I'm doing that maybe 3 weeks, but this week in Ireland, it's I sent Colette a picture yesterday. It's like we're in the clouds, like you cannot see any blue sky, and it's just
I can see it over your shoulder. Yeah.
You can probably explain it better because I'm so used to
just, that's the thing about Ireland. It's gorgeous, but the clouds are literally on your head. So it can feel very oppressive. And I can see it over your shoulder now. Like there's just mist. It's just completely white.
Just mist. You can't see. And when I see that, because Ayurveda, I think, there's the heavy weather and, it's
heavy, wet, moist.
My body.
Yeah.
It's not a good combination.
Yeah.
And yesterday, it was really bad weather, so I didn't get up. But last night I was like, I went to a boxercise class. And I'm just so aware to move through this weather or else I will. And I could feel it this week. I could feel my concentration dipping. And kind of getting less motivated. So the thing is then I know I need to tighten up on everything.
Exactly.
And, eat the light foods, do the batch cooking. And this could be a time where I might get a bit lenient on myself. And so it's that pushing against your natural way,
because kapha wants comfort and coziness, and can't we just sit and have a cup of tea and a chat and a few biscuits? You know what I mean? Like that's what kapha wants. And and it's so lovely. But kapha needs a little bit of discipline and a bit of structure. But your awareness now is fantastic, and the fact that you're catching things so early, so they're not manifesting to those big illnesses, or you might go into a low mood, as you would say, for a couple of months. And so you're catching all these imbalances really early now that you have so much more awareness, and you're bringing yourself back online and bring yourself back into balance a lot more. And I want to go back to a couple of things you said. I want to talk more about the GP because that's a part of the story I want to discuss, but also the part where you say you could feel, they call it sometimes that aura before a hot flush, that you feel like something happens right in the brain. But now there has been studies done, and Dr. Mosconi, for any of you out there who are in perimenopause or going through menopause or even postmenopause, check out her work. Dr. Mosconi, she's an Italian neurologist, and she has shown now that a woman's cognitive function does go offline when there is a hot flush. So like you said, giving yourself some grace during that time and having some self-compassion is so important. Besides from the hot flushes, the night sweats, the disorganized thinking, as you were saying, all that cleared with the cleanse, which is great. So I'm jumping in here with a few housekeeping notes. I wanted to let you know about the next group digestive reset cleanse. It's going to be in the new year, but I'm giving you a heads up. It's going to start on January 23rd, 2026. And so this group cleanse, as you know, comes with a 90-minute online consultation with me so I can tailor the cleanse, this holistic cleanse to you and your lifestyle. And you get the group support also with a private community where we support each other and hold each other accountable. Now, if you do not want to wait until January 23rd next year to do your cleanse, you can take advantage of my private cleanse, which is the same structure. It comes with a 90-minute online consultation. The only difference being is that you have the flexibility to choose your own dates and you have me one-to-one for support. I also want to let you know about the new Elements of Ayurveda Podcast community. I think it's really important to come together in community, in Sangha, to share our experiences with Ayurveda. I know chatting with my sister a lot, it really helps. She understands Ayurveda as well, and we have great discussions. And I think it's made our relationship even closer as we support each other through these different life stages. And in my new Elements of Ayurveda podcast community, we're going to have monthly live Zoom meetups where we'll gather together for discussion, Q&A, and heartfelt conversation. You'll get early access to podcast episodes. There's going to be member forums. There's going to be guided mindfulness practices and, of course, group challenges. I'll put the link in the show notes, or you can just go to my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com/community. And finally, I want to talk about the Daily Habits for Holistic Health program. Again, in this episode, we're discussing a lot about daily habits. I do have a 28-day self-paced program where I focus on education and the implementation of daily habits. And I'll put a link to that in the show notes also. And so I hope to connect with you soon, maybe in a consultation or cleanse or in the podcast community. Okay, let's go back to my conversation with Niamh. So let's talk about the doctor, because you're going to her to talk about your perimenopausal symptoms, and you scheduled it towards the end of the cleanse. So during the cleanse, you had that feeling of lightness on day 2, 3, and you're like, oh my goodness, this is great. I'm feeling that lightness again. But then because of your back spasm and you couldn't exercise, the cough, it took a nosedive again, and you were starting to feel that heaviness, and you're a bit like, what's happening here? And then you booked with the GP, the doctor. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, and that was on the Friday when I just kind of started getting into that kapha, heaviness way. And she took my blood pressure. So she asked me to track my blood pressure for 24 hours.
Because why was she asking you that?
Because she took it, say, 2 weeks before in the surgery, and it had been a little high. So it was like, I have it down here, actually, it was 37/92.
Okay.
And so she asked me to track it. So she had that information. And then when I went to see her, she took my blood pressure again, and she said it was high. So she couldn't start me on any HRT treatment until they sorted that out, which kind of confused me, because I was thinking, well, if I'm having like I was having such hormonal surges, would that not drive up my blood pressure? So while we were in that consultation, I was just thinking, okay, I was asking her, okay, what do I need to do throughout my day? I was thinking, okay, I'll look at the diet, and I knew I didn't have a mountain to climb of what I needed to do. But at the very end of it, she's like, oh no, and I want you to go on tablets, which kind of floored me. And she said, I know you don't seem happy about that. And I said, no, I'm not, but I'll take the prescription. And I just was like, I'll talk to Colette about this.
Yeah, because you wanted you to go on blood pressure medication, but your intuition was very clear. There has to be a connection here with the hormonal surge.
Yeah, sorry. I just think for your mental health and your confidence, I was like, if I hadn't done the cleanse and if I was sitting in that surgery, you know, anyway, I was thinking, what the hell, you know, going on blood pressure medication at 47, absolutely no way. I just, you know, I can see how people were getting such a slump or, you know, and luckily for me, like, because, you know, I work in mental health, I have good understanding of Ayurveda, my makeup. So like it didn't feel like a mountain, but it still absolutely floored me because I was kind of not doing well those few days because I hadn't had my morning routine had been off. And so I wasn't thinking clearly about it, and then spoke to Colette, and Colette was saying, okay, just take your blood pressure over a week, 3 times a day, and then go back to her. And like, yeah, that, like, now if you said it to me now, I'd be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But at the time I was kind of in you know, like scattered thinking or whatever, and in a bit of a panic. So you do need someone like, you know, your role, Colette, in these things as a practitioner is a real sounding board. You need someone to steady you when...
Right. Exactly. Because that is scary to hear that, oh, you have to go on blood pressure medication at 47. And so the thing was, okay, Western medicine is amazing, but let's see, this is not life-threatening. So we have some time here to work with this. So when I talked to you after that, I was like, okay, let's hold off on the medication. You're not in a life-threatening situation, but let's see, do all the things, all the diet and lifestyle, continue on the cleanse, because you still hadn't finished that, continue doing all the diet and lifestyle, continue with the mindfulness practices and so on. You got yourself a blood pressure machine at home. You were taking you decided, okay, you're going to take it 3 times a day, note it and send it back to the doctor and do that for a week. And then see where you are, you know, because in some cases you go to a doctor's office and it is the white coat syndrome that your blood pressure is going to go up. So, you know, I'm all about, let's see what we can do naturally first, if it's an acute situation, take the medication 100%. But if not, let's see what we can do naturally first. And then from there, make a decision about what medicine to take. Because Western medicine certainly has a role to play when it's necessary, you know, and it's so beneficial. So you took your blood pressure.
I tracked it for 2 weeks. And at the same time, I was on the cleanse. And, you know, what I see now is, balancing the hormonal imbalances. And then I was able to see it clear. So when I tracked my blood pressure, that was all normal. So I was able to email the GP and say, this is the log of my blood pressure. And she said, that's really good. And she told me to start on the patch.
HRT. Yeah. Great.
HRT patch. So that's what I did. But I just think the overview of it is that, you know, with the support of Colette, I had the tools to balance the hormonal imbalance. Then last Friday, then I started on HRT. So the one I'm using is the patch. So I'm just on that a week. I can see that, you know, obviously I think getting used to perimenopausal, it's like a wave, or a roller coaster. So you'll have sometimes you won't have symptoms, other times you will. Last few nights I've been having more hot flushes. While I was doing the cleanse, Colette had said to steep coriander seeds overnight and then to drink the water off the coriander seeds in the morning. They help with hot flushes. I ran out of coriander seeds, so I stopped doing that, and I think that's had a massive impact on the hot flushes. So I think that definitely works. And yeah, I suppose yesterday when I was thinking about all this, I was just saying, you know, what I feel with Ayurveda, it helped me meet this phase of life, have an understanding and awareness of the outward behaviors, so like the hot flushes, the cognitive difficulties, the overwhelm, and have lots of things in your toolbox to be able to help diet, exercise, engage in something that you really like to do, like if you're creative. It's just really helped in that way. And because my work is similar, where we, you know, as occupational therapists, we work through activities that you love to engage in and love to do. And I think with the support of Colette and following the Ayurvedic ways for my dosha, it brings me back into knowing what's right for my body, like to move, gives me the ability back to be able to connect with people, to have the zest for life, or get up and go. I don't know what.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because when you are out of balance, particularly with your main dosha in your constitution, kapha, that heaviness starts to lead you into withdrawal and inertia and lethargy, and you're just pulling back from life. So when you are thriving, you are there, taking up space, your voice is being heard, you're clear thinking, you can communicate well, because that's one thing that happens with you as well when you start, particularly during this phase when this hormonal surges were happening, was you were having difficulty communicating and feeling like you weren't able to express yourself properly. But it just shows as well that the impact of routine, I think, here is the big lesson. And it can feel overwhelming at first when you're learning about Ayurveda. But as you know yourself, Niamh, now, is it becomes part of your day, part of your routine. You get up at 5:30 a.m. and you exercise, and now, okay, now I have to, I'm going to do my batch cooking, my couple of nights. But once you have these routines and this foundational structure in place, the day in, day out habits, it really has a huge impact on your overall health and well-being. And then it's on autopilot, and you need to have less time, especially in your really busy day. You don't have to be making these micro decisions every day. What am I going to eat? What am I going to feed the kids? How am I going to balance my meals with the kids' meals? Now you already have this pre-planned. So you're not wasting energy on those decisions every day.
Yeah. It gives, like, I kind of call it a toolbox, but like that, like yesterday, these last few days when the weather is so damp, and where I'm looking at the weather going, oh, this is not good for my dosha. But all I'm thinking of is, like, I need to kind of be, make sure I'm doing everything right for mine.
Exactly.
So like you can pull it back so fast. And I suppose initially, like what you were saying there, Colette, it does, it feels like a lot initially, but actually once you get into it, it's small, steady habits and acts of like self-kindness that make the difference.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, it might be hard to get out of bed sometimes, but actually when you do the thing you love to do, even if it is an effort to do it, you know that, like, there's a knowing, this is right for me.
Exactly. You feel good. It gives you confidence. You feel empowered. But also it simplifies life when you have those routines and habits in place. Like I said, less wasted energy on making these micro decisions every day, and it simplifies things. Now you have a plan for your week. And as well, particularly for those busy mums or dads out there, that you're at least having some time early in the morning or in the evening, if the morning's not available to you, that you have some time for yourself. Self-care for a parent is really, really important, because the rest of the day, and in your situation, Niamh, you're giving to others all day with your kids and the kids in your work. So it's so important, ideally, to bookend your day with just a few minutes of self-care. But the time in the morning, especially when nature is quiet and still, and there's not many people around, it's a beautiful time to take some time for a reflection, and whatever suits your constitution to do that in the morning. But nourishing yourself first really gives you such a boost for the day, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And as you were saying that about the evening time, I forgot that I did add, like, because I always would know that I should move after I eat.
Yeah.
And I started to introduce that because I had more energy. I was able to go out for just a stroll in the evening after I ate. But before, I wasn't able to that because I just didn't have, like, I kind of would have explained to you that it felt like I was running out of battery.
Yeah. No motivation. That's the inertia. No spark whatsoever to even get up and out. One final thing I want to go back to before we finish up, and this is why I said to Niamh, let's talk about this on the podcast, because as Niamh said, she works in mental health. She knows a lot about Ayurveda. She's been listening to me going on and on about Ayurveda for years. And, she has all the tools available to her. And still she was struggling. As someone, especially with all the mental health tools, could recognize the imbalances, that I just want to come back to that, Niamh, because that, you really pointed out that when you're in the middle of it, you're like, I know what's going on, right? Yeah. Talk about that. You knew what was happening, but you were so overwhelmed by it all.
Yeah. Yeah. So I knew I could name what was happening. So I knew, well, Vata imbalance wasn't, I haven't experienced that much of Vata imbalance, but I knew what it was. But the overwhelm and the feeling like I wasn't in control is very different to my norm. That was the bit that the recent thoughts, what I would explain, like feeling like I'm moaning. If it felt like that I was like going on about these small things, but actually in the whole scheme of things, they were big things because they were having such an impact in every part of my day.
Yeah, it was the overwhelm. And I hear that from lots of my clients and my friends, going through this stage of life. It's just the overwhelm that those little tasks are just too much right now and you need support. So it's so great as well that you talked to Darren, your husband.
Yeah. And people kind of put words on it and then we all say, oh yeah, brain fog. Now, I'd be like, I don't really, I can understand brain fog if I'm out of balance, kapha, which feels like my brain has just slowed down. But I suppose everyone is putting their own perspective on that word. And through this, I was like, oh, this must be what people talk about being as what is brain fog to them. But really what it is that cognitive functioning and decline in cognitive functioning. And as you were saying from that research is like they've proven it now. So, when you're having a hormone surge, a hot flush, your sleep definitely isn't the quality that it was with the night sweats. Cognitively, you're not functioning like you would before. But I don't know, it's just the language about it, menopause, perimenopause, that people say, I don't feel like myself, brain fog, just the normal language around it. Like, I just started thinking about like what actually is that, what is behind that. And it's definitely I think the cognitive functioning, which is not spoken about a whole lot.
No.
Of perimenopause is massive for people because that's when they lose their confidence, struggle with their mental health, can sometimes shift this onto, oh, this must be a problem in my relationship. This must be an external problem when actually it's internal.
Exactly. You really have to, do your research, especially when it comes to perimenopause, because, menopause is one day in the calendar. Right? Menopause actually is just one day, which is 12 months without a cycle, 12 months without a period. The whole experience we're having is perimenopause. So that's where, we really need to focus. And obviously it's, trending right now. There's a lot of information coming out, which is fantastic. And, HRT, everybody, which is hormonal replacement therapy, everybody has to make their own decision. I recommend that you read up on the latest studies, but you really have to make your own decisions. My approach would be do everything naturally first. Bring your doshas into balance, live in alignment, set your lifestyle and your diet up to really complement your constitution and, take care of yourself. And then knowing that you're doing as much as you can to keep your body and mind in balance, then if you need support, talk to your doctor about that or your health professional about that. It's really important. But I think it's always worth, as we saw in Niamh's case with the blood pressure medication, is trying things naturally first. And then from that place of balance, plus you're balanced mentally, so you have more clarity in which to make those decisions and, do the research, that then from that really balanced state, mental clarity and a clear mind, that you can decide, okay, the next best step forward for you.
Yeah, because when you're talking there, what it feels like to me is like the foundations are right. So if you're doing things that suit your dosha, as your lifestyle, your diet, managing your stress or whatever that is, that if you have them foundations right, then I got that balanced, and it's obviously you're going in and out of balance the whole time, but but I know how to bring myself back now and bring myself back quickly. Now I've decided to go on, like, researched it loads, listen to loads of podcasts.
On HRT and the new studies coming out. Yeah.
Yeah. And my whole thing was like, well, I'm losing hormones that have such an impact on every aspect of my body and my organs. So of course I need them replaced. So even though I'm not a fan of medication,
right,
I've done, as you were saying, I did the other stuff, and I'm like, okay. And so I don't know, I didn't feel like other people were making this decision for me. I'm talking about GPs, or that I felt like it was the right time to use the hormone replacement therapy, so the HRT. I suppose one thing I didn't talk about is the pain. So like I'd have random pain in my hip, pain in my heel.
Oh, that's right. You had the Achilles tendonitis.
Yeah. So that's what I'm really hoping that they'll reduce.
Oh, absolutely. Because perimenopausal symptoms can go across the board, but definitely inflammation throughout the body, frozen shoulder, dry, itchy ears, dryness in the body. There's so many symptoms. I am just starting now to feel a little bit of heat, and I'm of course doing all the things in Ayurveda. I've stopped drinking alcohol years ago, really taking care of my liver. I know I'm a high pitta constitution, so I know my tendency anyway would be to have excess heat in the body. So I've been doing all the things, but now I've just started. It's just in the past few weeks I've started having some heat. For our family history, which is something you really need to look at, how did your mother go through perimenopause and menopause? That's really important. And for myself and Niamh, our mother has dementia and has had it for at least 10 years. So that's something that we need to take into account when we're making our decisions on how to move forward through our perimenopause, because it has such an impact on the brain. And again, that's looking at Dr. Mosconi's research with the effect of menopause in the brain, and given our mother's experience as well and her health, that we are really aware of, making sure we're taking care of our cognitive health, as well as our physical health. And so everyone has to make their own decision. For me right now, I'm still managing naturally, but I'm definitely going to have a conversation with my gynecologist here in France and make just decisions going forward. And these are preventative decisions. How do I prevent dementia? How do I prevent frozen shoulder or joint aches and so on? So again, I recommend that you all do your own research. I'll link to Dr. Mosconi's work, which I think is excellent. And it's so important. There's a lot more studies coming out now. Thank goodness we haven't had these women's studies done for decades. So now it's starting. People are starting to put more studies out there, which is fantastic because we need this information. But Niamh, thanks a million for coming on today, being so open, talking about your journey. I hope we didn't talk too thick Irish accent.
I'm sure we did.
I'm sure. I hope. Maybe I might need to translate. Oh, there's show notes.
I'm sure people will be like, oh God, she is Irish.
I know. After years in the US, my American accent comes out when I'm doing these podcasts. But no, I really appreciate you spending time and explaining this, because as we said, when we were going through this together, we're like, oh, let's have a conversation about this on the podcast. Because for people who don't have this knowledge of mental health as you do, or Ayurveda, it can be scary and it can be hard. Yeah. And again, sometimes it's a taboo topic and people don't feel like they should talk about it, because certainly our parents' generation didn't talk about it.
When you get stuck or out of balance, you haven't the cognitive capacity to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly.
And you feel alone, feel isolated and just in your own thoughts. So yeah. For me, I just feel like equipped now to, I'm going to be experiencing perimenopausal symptoms and Vata symptoms, and I just feel a bit more equipped to be able to catch it early, and
which is so empowering, right? And gives you confidence, because you're just not going to take this slump and go, oh my God, here we go. I'm out of control again. So, well, Niamh, thanks a million. I really appreciate you sharing. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Niamh. Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Niamh. And if you would like support on your journey, then please reach out. You can check out all my online services on my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com, and you'll find those links in the show notes. And please come join me on social media. The Instagram is Elements of Ayurveda Podcast, and on Facebook, it's Elements Healing and Wellbeing. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take good care of yourself, be well, and bye for now. Slán go fóill.